Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're here for the first time, my name is Karina. I do a lot of hiking, camping, all kinds of outdoor adventure trips, and what I want to do in this video is show you all of my ultralight camping gear. So I'm quite a small person. I'm only about 5'2" and a little bit, and so I like to pack as light as I possibly can so that my travel in the wilderness is more efficient. That being said, I go without some luxuries. I don't bring a chair. I don't bring a pillow. I don't bring some other things that some other campers do. You can if you want. This is just the gear that I bring, and if you're like me and you like to go as light as you possibly can and enjoy your travel, then this is the gear for you. Add to it, subtract from it, however you like, but this will give you a really good basis on some really lightweight gear. Now, I typically use all this gear for canoe tripping because that's what I like to do. But this easily all translates into hiking and backpacking. It's all very lightweight and would do just as well if you're going on a backpacking trip. I'm not really going to talk too much about food, but I will give you an idea of some of the things that I bring without getting into too much detail. But there's a lot of gear to talk about here, so we'll dive right in. I'm going to start with shelter. So I typically go camping with my husband Brandon. That's why I've got some other gear items here that I'll be talking about as well, because obviously he's different than me. I'm a rather small person, and so I have certain things that fit me better, and Brandon has this kind of different gear that fits him better. So when we go together and when we stay in the same shelter, we bring this tent. It's a 2-person tent. It's quite light. It's about 3 pounds, and if we want to split the difference, someone will take the poles and someone will take the rest of the tent, so that helps us split the weight differently. This tent is made by Wildlands Outdoor Gear. They were a brand new company a couple of years ago, and they actually sent me this, but I've been using it ever since. It's a great tent. I have no complaints about it. It's light, it's tough, it's done us really, really well for the backcountry. Next up, I have my summer sleeping bag. I often talk a lot about the winter gear and stuff, so this is basically just warm weather camping that I'm talking about, aside from a couple things that I also use for cold weather. So this is my Mountain Warehouse Extreme Down sleeping bag. I've had it for a couple years now. Some of the feathers are starting to come out of it, but it's very light, it's very small, it's not bulky, and because it's down, it fluffs up quite nicely, and it keeps me warm probably right down to about 0 degrees. Depending on the clothes that I wear when I sleep. So I'm quite a fan of it. It was very affordable, and Brandon has the same one, so we both fit in it. It's comfortable, it's good. So next up is sleeping pad. I use a Thermarest Neo Air X-Therm. This is one of the warmest ones you can get by Thermarest, and it's also one of the lightest, which is kind of crazy, but the technology behind this one and why it keeps you so warm. Like, I use this all through the winter. All my winter camping, I use this, and it keeps me very warm. It has a very high R value, which is what you're looking for cooler weather. So I can use this all summer long, all winter long. Really, really good, but also very pricey. I think it's around the $200-300 range. Another option, it's very light, but it is bulky. This is the Thermarest Z-Lite. I know a lot of backpackers use it. The nice thing about it is it's completely waterproof, so you can strap it to the outside of your pack. And another nice thing is that it doubles as a camp seat. So you can just fold it however you want. It's very light but bulky. So something you're going to be strapping to the outside of your pack, strapping to your canoe or whatever, however you like to roll. But it's another option. This only came in about 50 bucks. I got this at Cabela's. Or Bass Pro Shops, or you can get it a bunch of different places, but it's pretty versatile, which is really nice. When I'm doing canoe trips, I like to have things that have multiple uses. So not the most comfortable sleeping pad, I would say. Obviously, the Thermarest is a lot more comfortable, but kind of doesn't double as some other things. But that's just my take on it. So that's another option for a sleeping pad that is far less expensive, a little less comfortable, but also has double purpose. All right, next up. If I know it's going to rain, I will bring a tarp. I use a Sil nylon tarp. This one's made by AquaQuest. So this is a 10 by 10. That's the configuration that I like. This is the AquaQuest Guide Tarp. Again, 10 by 10. Has lots of tie outs, and it's very light. It's very great. And along with that, I bring paracord. So there's regular paracord, the 550, but I started using recently the 375, 325 or whatever paracord. It's less bulky, it's a little lighter, and it's just more than strong enough for what I need it for. And often I'll just put that right into the bag with this, and then it all stays together. So that's tarping stuff. If I'm going by myself on a canoe trip, if I'm not staying with Brandon, I will leave the tent at home and I will bring a hammock instead. This is, I just picked this up at, where did I pick this up? Mountain Equipment Co-op. And it's a really, really lightweight hammock. It's made by Eno. It's the sub 6 hammock, and it's probably too small for most people, I would say. So fair warning, but it's extremely light. This whole package comes down to less than a pound or around a pound. So that's like, and this is suspension system. So these two go together. And of course, if I'm bringing this, then I'm bringing a tarp as well. They kind of just go hand in hand. So that's your sleep system if you're just going hammock style. Next up is a BioLite headlamp. It's super light. It's very comfortable to wear. And it's actually the lightest one like that I've ever seen. And it's like nothing. It's so little. Next up, I was bringing a little safety kit, just with a few things, some Advil, some allergy medication, or Benadryl, or whatever, in case you run into an issue in the backcountry. I've never had to use it, thankfully, except for maybe a Band-Aid for a blister, but definitely good to have, highly recommended. Okay, cutting tools. The first one I'll talk about is a hatchet. I don't bring one. I actually never bring a hatchet when I'm going on a lightweight trip. The only time I bring a hatchet is if it's a little bit more of a comfortable trip, or if it's more of a bushcraft style trip. Otherwise I don't, but I know that some people do, and so I'll give my recommendation. I like my little Husqvarna. It's pretty lightweight, pretty small, and it works for me. And this is a great time to shout out my friend Brittany, who does amazing leather work, and she made me this beautiful mask for it, so yeah. Little plug there for her. Brittany's awesome. Alright, next up, a cutting tool. Always handy to have a cutting tool. Not always necessary. The only thing I can think of at the moment is this Leatherman that I have, but it is a little bit heavy, and I'm trying to find an alternative to something like this, something that's a lot lighter and basically just a few tools. I know a lot of people brought the, used to bring Swiss Army knives. Just anything to, like, you know, you gotta cut a bag open for your food, or you have to, like, shave a stick to get some dry shavings. Anything like that, it's very handy to have something that can cut. But yeah, I just have my Leatherman. I got it at Cabela's. Next up is a saw. I don't always bring a saw, but I do sometimes. If I know I'm gonna have some downtime and want to have a fire, I will bring this Silky Big Boy. It does the trick. I'm not the biggest fan of silky saws, to be honest. I don't like the ergonomics of it. It hurts my wrist, but it does well, and they're super lightweight, and you can get smaller ones too. This is just the only one I have, so that comes with me sometimes, but not all the time. Next up, I'm going to talk about kitchen stuff. So right up the hop, I guess water filtration kind of goes along with that. So I have two different kinds. This is the Canoe Be-Free. Basically the filter's on top, and then you have the dirty water bag. Of course, I'm canoe tripping, so I don't need to carry a lot of water with me, but I always carry a filter. So you just scoop up the water, put the filter on, screw it on, and then I carry an Nalgene water bottle, squirt it into the water bottle, and then you can even fill the bag just to keep around camp too, if you don't want to go back down to the water or whatever. Another filter I used to use is the Sawyer Mini Squeeze. So basically this is your dirty water bag, you fill it up, screw the filter on, squeeze it out, and that's your filter. And these two are really good. They're both very lightweight. I find this one a lot easier to use, but this one will last you a lot longer. This one does like a ridiculous, like it's good forever basically. And it comes with a syringe to clean it out and everything. So this one will last you a lot longer. This one's only good for probably about a season or two, depending on how much you do, and then you can just buy a new filter for it. So yeah, there's lots of options, but these are the ones that I use. These are the ones that I like. I prefer this one, but this one's pretty hardy. And this filter itself, the Sawyer Mini, also works with like a smart water bottle. You can screw the filter right to it, drink as you go. So okay, next up in the kitchen category is a bear bag. Now I live in an area where there's black bears. Thank goodness we don't have grizzly bears, but it's kind of the same concept. We always are very careful with our food when we're traveling in the wilderness, in the backcountry, whatever you want to call it. So I bring a bag like this, Nano 3D 10 liter from Mountain Equipment Co-op. And I throw a paracord up into a tree off a tree branch and keep it out from the tree and at least 10 feet above the ground to try to keep it away from bears. So you put your food in here. It is a dry bag, so it's waterproof. Clip it up, hang it in the tree, and that's how I keep my food. This fits right into my pack with all of my other stuff. For the most part, I can do about 5 days out of a 10-liter bag, just by packing my food smart and using dehydrated foods and things like that. I'll give you a few examples of the food I bring. So obviously I section this off into little baggies. Some trail mix, really handy to have. Gives you a lot of good calories. Sometimes I'll pack the Mountain House meals. They're just stupid easy. You boil water, you pour it in, wait a few minutes, and you're ready to eat. So those are really, really handy, but also very pricey. Recently we got a vacuum sealer. We picked it up at Cabela's, and it works amazingly well. We really like it. We mostly use it to store meats and stuff in our freezer, but also very handy for the dehydrated meals that I make and dry. So this is just, I dehydrated some blueberries that were going to go bad, and then I threw them in here, threw them in the vacuum sealer, and now those are good to go for a trip at some point. Another example of a meal I made is spaghetti. I make the spaghetti, I make the noodles, I throw it all together, and then I dehydrate it all together. I have a video on that I will link somewhere or down below or whatever, if you're interested in that. But then I just throw it in a Ziploc bag, throw it in the freezer until I'm ready to leave on my trip, throw it in my trip bag for the next day, and you're good to go. I enjoy drinking coffee on a trip. Most people ask what kind of coffee I use. I just use a very simple instant coffee. This is the Nescafe Gold. That's the one that I really like. I find it tastes the closest to like real coffee. Obviously I put it into a little baggie and bring it on my trip. Sometimes I bring an extra mug, maybe if I want to have like oatmeal and coffee or something at the same time. But typically I won't. I will only bring one cook cup that doubles as my eating cup and my drinking cup. And that is my titanium 750 ml cup from Kid Products. These guys are really awesome. This is an Ontario company. Highly recommend this one. I used to have the Tokes one. I don't like it. The lid never fit properly. This one fits much better. And I like supporting, you know, good guys and a small company. So that's it. It's so light. And right in there fits my fold-up spork. And then otherwise in this cup, I fit a little Jetboil canister of fuel and a small titanium stove, and I just throw in a little bit lighter with that, and that is it. That comes in around 1 pound with like a full canister, maybe a little over a pound with the full canister of fuel, but very, very handy. Next up for kitchen goods, these Nalgene bottles. Very underrated. They seal up really, really good. And we actually got these at Algonquin Outfitters in Huntsville. So if you're ever in Huntsville, stop by. Say hi to my friend Nate, who works there. He's a manager there. Tell him I told you to stop in and see him. And, but yeah, these things are awesome. They come in all different sizes. This one has salt in it right now. And they are very, very leak proof. I've never had an issue with them. I throw this right in my bag, right in my food bag, whatever. And I got my Baileys in one, you know, my whiskey or my wine or whatever in the bigger ones, and then salt or cream or whatever you want in the smaller ones. These ones are good for like salt and pepper and stuff like that. Along with the kitchen stuff, there is always garbage. You will be packing your garbage out. Do not leave your garbage in the backcountry. What I like to do, since most things are out of little bags and things like that, there's always little pieces of garbage to collect as you go. I always carry an extra large Ziploc bag. I put my garbage in it, and then I suck all the air out, close it up, and it's very easy to pack out your garbage. That is a hack that I highly recommend you do, because otherwise you're gonna have garbage all over your bag. It's gonna smell up all your stuff. Then, like, why even bother hanging a bare bag if all your stuff smells like your garbage from your food and things like that? So highly recommend bring a Ziploc bag. I prefer the extra large ones, or I'll bring a smaller one for a smaller trip. But yeah, these big ones are really, really nice and handy to have, and you can reuse them. Bring them home, wash them, use them on the next trip until they fail you, basically. Obviously, you need a baler kit if you're on a canoe trip. These ones are really handy. They have the throw bag, they have a whistle, and they've got your bailing part of it, and they just clip to the back of your canoe. Super lightweight, super handy, great for portaging. Next up is a paddling life jacket. This one is by Stolquist. I bought it at Mech a lot of years ago. It does me well. I don't love the way it goes on. I wish I got like a jacket style one, but this one kind of goes on over my head, which I don't love. But yeah, if I could change anything, I would have a front zipper one instead of a put over my head and side zipper one. But it does the trick. Keeps me safe. I try to wear it. I find it difficult to wear it, but I try to wear it. Next up is toilet paper. I bring this Sea to Summit, this little 2-liter like dry bag. It's super lightweight, and that way I don't have to use a Ziploc bag, and it keeps the toilet paper dry, and it's very easy and small and cute, kind of. Next up, we'll talk a little bit about clothes. I'll give you a small idea of some of the clothes that I like to wear, but ultimately you're going to find your own preference on what you like to wear. So first off is, like, for any base layers or anything that touches my skin, I like having merino wool. In the summertime, it's not so much of a big deal, but cotton, when you get sweaty and stuff, gets really heavy and it's impossible to dry. Merino wool dries out really quickly. It's like more smell proof, I would say, than like the light synthetic stuff. But mostly you want stuff that wicks. So the synthetic workout gear that you can get, like workout shirts and stuff, those work well. And they dry a little bit faster, but they get really smelly really easily. I highly recommend wool, especially merino wool, because it's softer and a little lighter. So this is just a smart wool base layer, but I wear it as just a long sleeve or whatever too. And I got it from Cabela's, and I really, really like it. It's comfortable and it's pretty soft. For pants, my favorite warm weather canoe tripping pants are these Abisco trousers. These are my #1 canoe tripping pants. They're super comfortable, super lightweight, dry really fast, which you want because you're in and out of the water all the time. Highly, highly, highly recommend them. During bug season, I bring a bug shirt. It is a necessity. I don't bring bug dope or anything like that. I don't like wearing that stuff. I hate it. I would rather bring this 100%. And so this is made by the original bug shirt company. This bug shirt, it's the best I've ever had. I've tried the cheap ones that just fall on your skin and then the bugs get you anyway because it's just touching your skin. These ones don't do that. They're amazing. Highly recommend. Next up is a raincoat. If it's gonna rain, you're gonna want a raincoat. You do not want to get wet. That is your biggest problem out in the backcountry, I would say. This is just a Gore-Tex one from Mountain Equipment Co-op. It's packable and lightweight, which I like, and that's what I use. Sometimes, on trips, but not always, I will bring a towel. It's a pack towel, also got it at Cabela's, and it's very lightweight. It dries very quickly. That's what you want out there. You don't want to bring like one of those big bulky bath towels. They just don't work and they're way too heavy and they never dry. So this is the kind of towel that you want. I will only bring this if I know I'm going to be swimming a lot, or even if I am going to be swimming a lot, sometimes I won't bring it. Like, it's very much a luxury item for me. So depending on the weather, depending on how I feel when I'm packing, I will bring this or not. If I don't bring it, I bring a smaller version. And so this helps with drying your kitchen gear or whatever, and this one is just that big. I hope you guys are still with me. I'm getting very tired of hearing my own voice. But we're almost done, so we'll just get through it. The most important thing about when you're canoe tripping is having a dry bag to keep your stuff dry, because you would, believe me, much rather be dry if it starts raining. You can just throw this around in your canoe. If it starts raining, you don't have to worry about it. It's going to sit at your bottom of the canoe and get wet anyways. So you want a dry pack if you're doing canoe tripping. It's just like, it saves so much. And even when you're around camp, you know, you've got some odds and ends laying out at night. You know it's going to rain. Maybe you don't have a tarp. Maybe you don't have anywhere to put anything. You don't want to stuff it in your tent. Stuff it all in this bag, close it up, leave it in the rain. Don't even have to worry about it. You're good to go. So yeah, Brandon really likes his. It's got these two handles in the front, makes it easy to get in and out of the canoe. The 75-liter pack is way too big for me personally, but it fits well for Brandon. He really likes it, and yeah, the harness system on the back is quite comfortable, and he likes it. So now this one is made by Earth Pack. It is also a dry bag. It's a little bit heavier, like, material, but it's a lot smaller. This one's only 55 liters. The reason being is that I pack obviously very light, and I don't like to bring a lot of stuff, and all the stuff that I bring on a canoe trip fits in here no problem. I've never had an issue because I pack so light. The reason that I have such a small pack as well is that I have a tiny torso. My torso is only about this long, and so a canoe pack like this just does not work for me. I can't carry it. It throws my balance completely off because the waist strap ends up like way down past my hips. So it just doesn't work for me. So if you're like me and you have a smaller torso, you would go with something like this. As you can see, the harness system is really small. It's also not very comfortable, but I would take that over a bag that is just way too big for me and doesn't fit properly. If you're packing properly, you don't need a super heavy duty harness system to stay comfortable, as long as it's packed well, which I always try to do when I'm packing my bag. So this is the waist strap, like it doesn't have any padding or anything. But I've been using this bag for my canoe trips for a solid 5 years now. 4 or 5 years anyway. And I think it was only 75 bucks when I bought it on Amazon all those years ago. And it's still holding up like incredibly well. I'm very surprised by it. I did not think it was going to last more than a couple years. But it's doing the trick, and it keeps my stuff dry, and it fits my back, which is the most important thing for me. So that's my canoe pack. Next up, we'll talk about paddles. This is the paddle that I normally use on canoe trips. I use a double blade paddle because, as you can see, these two canoes behind me are made by Swift. They're very, very lightweight canoes. This one's only about 28 pounds. This one's only about 26 pounds or so. These are called solo canoes. So you sit in the middle of the canoe. That's where the seat is. And it's most efficient to just use a double blade. Especially when you're going long distance trips. It's just like, I know it's so cringy for those who just love the traditional canoeing and stuff, but if you're on your own in a solo canoe, this is the way to go for efficiency. Absolutely. Just have bending branches. It clips in together. I go. I've had this paddle for a couple years now. I really like it. As for a more traditional paddle, when I'm canoe tripping, I like to use, if I'm in a tandem boat or something, I like to use a otter tail paddle. That's the most efficient for the lakes and stuff that we have here in Ontario. This one is made by Badger Paddles. It's a beautiful cherry wood paddle, and it fits me really well. I love it, and it's a great company. Mike, who owns this company and makes these paddles, he's a great guy. Him and his wife do, sorry. And yeah, they hooked Brandon and I up with these paddles a couple of years ago too, and we really like them, although we don't use them very often. When we do get to use them, they are beautiful to use and also to look at. So that's really nice. I love using a traditional style paddle every once in a while, even in my solo boats. They're really, really good. So yeah, that's my Badger paddle. It's just so pretty to look at. So that pretty much covers everything other than my canoes. So full disclosure, I am an ambassador of Swift Canoes. I absolutely love them. I've been working with Swift Canoes for years now, like three or four years now. And great company. They're extremely popular here in Ontario, and they're growing in popularity across the world. They are shipping canoes out like crazy because they just have an incredible product. Like I said, these two in particular, and a lot of the canoes that they make, are extremely lightweight. This is a 15-foot Keewaydin solo canoe. I used to have a tandem Keewaydin that was 16, and then I traded it in for the 15 because Brandon and I like to use our solo canoes. That's what we like to do. This is the Swift Prospector 14-foot canoe. This one's just a touch heavier, but I'll leave a link to Swift Canoes down in the description. And yeah, just contact them if you're looking for a canoe. Tell them what you're looking for. They will give you advice on what they would recommend for you based on what you want to do with it. So Brandon and I do our lightweight trips. These guys go long distance very, very easily. If you guys have any questions, please ask them below. I will try to answer them. But otherwise, like, we did pretty good. We got through this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this video added some value to your life, and I hope that it helps you maybe try to plan your next hiking or canoe trip. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next video.